Conservatism. As the name implies, conservatism aims to preserve conventional values within the culture of the West. Conservatives typically support organized religion, the military, the nuclear family, and private property rights. Liberalism. It's common knowledge that liberalism dominated modern history. It typically supports the notions that each and every person has the right to privacy, that the consent of the people who form the government is necessary, and that all persons ought to be treated equally in the eyes of the law. It also supports free markets, multi-party elections, the division of powers among the various branches of government, the separation of church and state, a set of core principles enshrined in the Constitution, the right to privacy, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and freedom of religion. Moderation. The range of policies that are politically acceptable to the majority of people is known as the Overton window, and this is where moderation prefers to stay. Moderates are typically apolitical, which is to say that they don't care but are somewhat informed about politics. Capitalism. The foundation of capitalism is the private ownership of the means of production and their use for financial gain. Private property, free commerce, rivalry, division of labor, and social collaboration are the essential elements of capitalism. Communism. The core tenet of communism is shared ownership of the means of production, distribution, and trade, which distributes goods according to need to every member of society. There is no private property, money, social classes, or state in a communist society. The goal of feminism is to define and establish gender equality in terms of politics, the economy, the individual, and society. It maintains that women are treated unfairly in these communities and that the viewpoint of men is given priority. Fighting gender stereotypes and expanding women's access to professional and educational opportunities are two ways to try and address this. Anarchism. Anarchism is an ideology that supports a society devoid of formal authority or rulers. It promotes stateless communities and voluntary free associations in place of the state, putting a strong emphasis on the idea of freedom. Authoritarianism. Authoritarianism is a form of government characterized by a strong power, which is usually central, that demands obedience to authority and limited political and civil freedoms. For example, most classic monarchies are a form of authoritarianism. The ruler of an authoritarian country imprisons and persecutes its opponents. Environmentalism. The phrase environmentalism, sometimes known as green politics, refers to a variety of ideologies that share the conviction that the environment should play a major role in shaping public policy, whether it is through promoting recycling, lowering CO2 emissions, halting water pollution, etc. Populism. Its main strategy is to appeal to as many people as possible while also playing on their sensibilities, with the idea that the general public must get what they want. It just needs to be a movement led by and for the people. Otherwise, it can take on a variety of shapes. It lacks any true political affiliation as a result. Because of its dependence on public support, it is frequently linked to democracies. It's usually anti-establishment and anti-politics, and it separates the populace from the elite. Republicanism. Republicanism is an ideology based on a non-hereditary form of governance that, in contrast to monarchy, grants political authority to the people living in a state that is set up as a republic. Progressivism. According to progressivism, historical legacies should not be revered and should instead be seen as secondary to society advancement. Essentially, it is the antithesis of conservatism. Imperialism. Imperialism has long held that a nation should use force to increase its strength or influence. Although it was essentially significant as moderatism and was once immensely popular, its appeal has waned over time. Imperialism is characterized by its support for war and its conviction that the stronger countries ought to dominate the weaker ones. Usually, in response to charges of oppression, he argues that colonized people win because wealthier nations support them and provide them with resources that they wouldn't otherwise be able to. Egalitarianism. Egalitarianism is a philosophical movement that emphasizes social equality for all individuals, building on its foundation. As a result, every state's citizens need to enjoy the same legal protections and treatment. Transhumanism. According to transhumanism, everyone should use technology to advance themselves in order to meet both the most fundamental and complicated of humankind's problems. All individuals achieving immortality and greatly enhanced bodies and minds is the ultimate goal. Communitarianism. Communitarianism is an ideology that emphasizes the well-being of and the importance of the community as the primary social unit. It will typically stress the idea that the left-right binary of politics is holding politics back, as well as argue that policies from both sides of the spectrum are complementary and necessary to benefit the community. It believes that absolute individualism is harmful when it contradicts the common good. Fascism. Fascism says that people are weak, divided, but strong, united under the banner, whether that banner be of a state, nation, army, or anything of the like. It is authoritarian, which means that it's characterized by a controlling government that rejects the idea that people can vote between multiple parties. It involves a strong central power, which usually refers to a dictator, so it rejects separation of power. Fascism is also ultra-nationalist, which is the belief that a nation shouldn't care about other nations' rights, as long as it benefits itself. Ultranationalism usually coexists with militarism, which is the idea that a nation should have a powerful enough military to expand national interests and values. Fascism suppresses opposition using forceful methods. It believes in a natural social hierarchy, and it promotes the refusal of individual interests for the perceived good of the nation or race. Nazism. Nazism is a form of fascism with a focus on its racist ideology, which says that the Aryan race is superior. It believes that the Aryan race should rule the rest of the world to make it better, thus being ultra-nationalist. To be classified as an Aryan by the Nazis, you have to be white, straight, mentally and physically able, non-cowardice, and non-Jewish. If you are considered non-Aryan, you are called Untermensch, which means subhuman. It also likes eugenics, a set of beliefs and practices that aim to improve the genetic quality of a human population. For that reason, people with inherited disorders are considered useless eaters and were killed or sent to camps on sight as they were regarded as life unworthy of life. Nazism also hates homosexuals, considering them Untermensch as well. I will shoot similar videos. Subscribe to watch them.